Welcome, everybody, to the Fairfax Sports Report. Today, we're going to talk a little field hockey. We're going to talk a little girls soccer news. We have some football, and of course, we have all of your volleyball news. But before we get things started, we need to thank our underwriters. CCI Screen Printing for all your screen printing needs. Give them a call at 703-978-0257. And please visit us online at our new and improved website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. I am your host this week, John Marcario. To the left of me, the one and only Paul Frumbolt. Over there, the man we like to call Dave Bushenfeld. We've had a lot of Northern Region District Championship field hockey action, so let's get things kick-started right away. Dave, how about Lake Braddock and those Bruins?
Well, Lake Braddock won their third straight district title over in the Patriot District. They were the #1 seed coming into the tournament. They beat South County 3-0. They've actually won 19 district titles since 1980. That's 19 in 28 seasons, which is ridiculous if you ask me. They have a 19-1 record right now. Their only loss on the season came to previously unbeaten Langley, who ended up losing to Woodson in the Liberty District final. That was a 1-0 game. Other than that game, they've been perfect all year.
Head coach Diane Miller has just been outstanding at the school during her time there, 2+ decades there. Paul, we have a little Concord news as they have a new champion out of the Concord district.
On the other end, when you have Lake Braddock, you have Chantilly, who has never won a district title. They beat Robinson 3-1 to get their first Concord district title. Coach Ralph Chapman was just overjoyed. He said, "This is it. We've worked for it. We've been close. We finally get it." Now Chantilly, they had little offensive struggles late in the regular season, losing games to Westfield and Fairfax by 0-0 scores, but they bounced back in the Concord District tournament and end up beating Robinson again 3-1.
And to get there, they had to play 3-time defending district champion Oakton in the semifinals. They beat them 2-1 in overtime. It was a very exciting game.
Now you guys were at both those games. How do you think Robinson and both the champion Chantilly will do in the upcoming Northern Regions tournament that starts on Thursday?
Robinson probably going to lose. They have to face Langley in the first round of the region tournament, and I don't see them beating Langley.
Well, last year, the Concord District, the #4 seed from the Concord District, ended up winning the Northern Region title, and that was Westfield. The thing was, the Concord District was matched up against the National District. To take nothing away from the National District, but this year, they are matched up against the Liberty District. Liberty District, you have Woodson, you have Langley. So you're going against those kind of teams. So the Concord District may struggle this year.
Well, those games sounded like they were nice, but I was at the game of the year for field hockey, ladies and gentlemen. Woodson-Langley for the Liberty District Championship. Woodson won the game 2-1 in double overtime as sophomore Shelley Montgomery scored a goal with 14 seconds to go in the game. The Cavaliers won their third consecutive Liberty District crown behind their first-year head coach. Cavaliers players after the game were just going out of their mind crazy, while Langley players, who came in with a 19-game winning streak, just looked completely distraught. Several of them were crying. Your hearts had to go out with them because that's a tough, tough way to go out. But Langley just couldn't get it done down the stretch. Their players seemed to fade. Woodson put constant pressure on the Saxons in the final 3.5 minutes of the second overtime as they had 6 shots on goal. Paul, you and I have a little pretty much agreement on. How do you think the Saxons will do in the upcoming Northern Region tournament?
Yeah, first to go with it, it's just a heartbreaker. Last year, they lost in the Liberty District Finals to Woodson. They were a great team last year. And now you thought that this year that they kind of had those demons out of their system. And they had that winning streak. They beat Westfield twice, a team that they lost to twice last year. They beat Woodson in the regular season. You think, all right, these Saxons are finally going to push through. They haven't won a Liberty District title since, I believe, 2000. So you really thought this was their year. Now they lose to Woodson, double overtime, heartbreaking loss, and I think it's going to stick with them. I don't know if they can rebound from this.
It is a tough loss. Before the tournament started, they had a 10-day layoff between their last day of the regular season and their first-round game against Marshall. Then they played Woodson 1 day later. Now they have a quick 2-day layoff, so you have 3 games and a quick turnaround. They just looked so devastated after that loss. I tend to agree with you. I think they're going to struggle a little bit in the early part of the regional tournament. If they can possibly string together a win in the first round, they could carry them to the title game. But I just don't see that happening. I think that loss is going to stick with their mind a little bit too much.
I still think this is the best team in the region. I think Langley is the best team in the region. They had the Player of the Year again in Faith Adams in the Liberty District. They had the Coach of the Year in Jennifer Robb. And this is a well-coached team. This is a good team. I think it's going to be tough to bounce back from such a heartbreaking loss.
Right. Well, they did come in with a 19-game winning streak, so they do know how to win. Now, on Thursday night, for you Northern Region fans. Virginia Tech plays a big game against Boston College. If you look at the Hokies roster, they have 12 players from the Northern Region on there. Dave, one of those players has close ties to the area.
Well, you've got a lot of players on Virginia Tech and also on Boston College. The 4-year starting punter for BC is Johnny Ayers, who is a former 3-sport star at Madison High School. He played football, basketball, baseball for the Warhawks. He's been, like I said, the 4-year starting punter. He will be punting to Eddie Royal, former Westfield star, who is the #1 return man in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He has run 2 kicks back for touchdowns this year. BC is ranked #2 in the nation right now. Virginia Tech ranked #8. The winner of this has the inside track to win the ACC title this year. It should be a great game.
Should be a good one. Let's clean up a little bit of the field hockey action for you. Also a champion was Edison. They three-peated as national district champions as well. Very good job right there for Ginger Wright Robinson and company. And to clean up our notes section, Liz Pike, the Lake Braddock stellar and veteran head coach who led the Bruins to back-to-back Virginia AAA state championships, left in August to become the head coach of the University of Shenandoah, also known as Shenandoah University. The Hornets finished 4-11 this year. We wish Liz Pike the best of luck. But guys, now it's time to get into a little football. We're going to start it off with the Liberty District, where it seems that 2 teams are kind of separating themselves from the pack, Paul.
Well, you see Stonebridge and Madison, and you see the result of last week's Stonebridge versus Madison, because Stonebridge now is 5-0 and 7-1 overall. Madison falling to 4-1 and 7-1 overall. Those are the 2 top teams, obviously, in the Liberty District, but do not count out Woodson and Langley. Woodson's 4-0 in the district and 5-3 overall. Langley is 3-2 and 4-4 overall. And then you start dropping down. You got Marshall. Hey, they're 5-3 overall, but they've had a hard time in that district. They're 2-3. They have South Lakes and McLean. Now the thing about these teams is they're still in the playoff hunt. South Lakes at 1-4, 2-6 overall. McLean 1-4, 2-6 overall, and Thomas Jefferson 0-5 in the district, 1-7 overall.
Now you mentioned the Statesmen right there. Them and the Cavaliers were the FSN game of the week as Woodson came out victorious 38-27 as they surged ahead after the hour-long rain delay that they had. Several games in the Northern Region were delayed on Friday night. Calling the game for us was Mr. Win Ellington. Win, are you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Hey there, Win. First off, tell us what you saw out of Woodson after they came back from the rain delay.
Well, Greg Wyszynski was actually doing the play-by-play. I was doing the color. But what was even impressive was right before the rain delay, Marshall had just scored a goal of 28-24. It was in the third quarter, and Woodson had a long drive to the 15-yard line when the officials finally. And so we had the delay, we're stoked like it was all across the area. And then when it came back on the Gabe Thomas threw a quick little out pass there to Max Weisenegger, and then he just went on into the end zone, and so the Woodson regained the lead there, and they scored another touchdown in the fourth. But that momentum started on the drive before 15-yard line. The students were going crazy, and then they held on to the momentum even after the game restarted.
Now, Win, talk about Gabe Thomas, the sophomore quarterback for Woodson. Took over earlier in the season. He's been doing a great job for the guys so far.
Yeah, he was impressive too. It's hard to believe he was just a sophomore. I mean, he quietly led the team. He didn't have really crazy stats. I mean, I think he threw for just over 100 yards, and he completed 6 out of 10 passes, but 4 of those completions went for touchdowns. And he was a good runner too. He really complemented the rushing attack of Jake Sweeney and James Johnson, another reserve. But he was good at faking the option and then getting about 5 or 6 yards. So he was effective at keeping his team, keeping the defense off balance.
We mentioned Woodson. They're now 4-1 in the district, 5-3 overall. Going into the playoffs, how do you see Woodson? What chance do you think they have? They got a great record and they have a great team.
Yeah, I think they got a strong chance. They've had some tough injuries this season, but they're very well balanced. Thomas, many of the players contributed to this victory, and I think having so many key contributions will serve them well heading into the playoffs. In addition, they also had a really good defensive lineman named Jack Dunn, who did a great job of putting pressure on Harold Sweet. And then also deserve mention is Sam Burt. He was the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, and then he got moved out to the wing, but he's kept his defense, his position in the secondary, and he had 2 key interceptions. So I think that I think they're a very well balanced team, and I think they'll they got a good shot in the playoffs because of just their overall balance. And the team had a lot of character. That was one thing I was impressed about.
Things you have Marshall. They're also 5-3 overall, but they dropped to 2-3 in the district. Talk a little bit about that.
Marshall did a great job too. They just in the end they just didn't have enough gas in the end, it seemed like. But one player who I really liked for Marshall was Doug Howell. He's arguably I would say he's the most physical player I've seen all season. He's compact. He's about 5'9", 190 pounds. But he was great at breaking tackles. If that was one, I guess, kind of weakness I saw in Woodson during this game was when Howell got downfield, they missed a lot of tackles on Howell. Howell was just a little bit more physical than Woodson was at points in this game. But he had about 140 yards rushing, and then defensively too, he played safety. It's kind of like a high school version of Bob Sanders from the Indianapolis Colts. He would just, he was great on run support. He would just come up and, he would come up and step in the hole, and then he had some pretty nice hits on the Woodson running backs. So he was good. And then Chris Hurlburt too is another, key player for Marshall. He's kind of a physical kid as well, about 210 pounds. And one thing Marshall did well was their quarterback, Harold Sweet, he was a little bit injured, and he didn't have quite the speed that Coach Biddison told us before the game. But he was effective on those rollout passes, and he would hit Hurlburt and Doug Howell on those rollout passes, and Marshall got a lot of yardage out of those plays.
Well, Win, thank you very much for your great analysis. If you want to read more about Win's analysis of each game he's at on Friday night, you can check it out at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Win, look forward to talking to you next week, buddy.
Hey, I look forward to it too. Y'all have a great show.
Mentioning Doug Howell, little brother of Frank Howell, and Frank was key in bringing this Marshall football team back and getting them into playoff contention each and every year. They're cut from the same mold. Doug is extremely physical and extremely fast.
Well, that was kind of, if you want to tier the Liberty District matchups last week, that was the second tier game. But if you want to go first tier, it was Madison-Stonebridge. And I believe somebody on this set said they believed Madison would lose big on that one. Dave, you got a chance to be at the game. What happened?
Well, for some reason picked Madison to win that game. We'll get into it more when we get to the pick'em part. I am now a Stonebridge believer. All I can say about the Bulldogs is, wow. They have more athletes on their team than I have seen so far this year, except for maybe Westfield and Chantilly. They just totally dominated the game. Madison couldn't stop the passing game, and when they didn't throw it long, they couldn't stop the running game. Patrick Thompson for the Bulldogs threw 2 touchdowns, both in the first half. He had a touchdown pass of 51 yards and 31 yards, I believe, to Ryan Moody. He went out with a knee injury later in the game. They brought in Gavea at quarterback. Gavea ended up with 67 yards passing, 44 yards receiving, and 66 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. The kid can do everything, and then you throw in that he's an amazing safety on the defensive side of the ball as well. Madison was hurt by big plays. They had 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter. The drive, however, started in the third quarter, 22 plays. It took nearly 12 minutes, almost a full quarter of the game for them to get in the end zone on that drive. And by the time they got in the end zone, they just didn't have enough time left to make any kind of a comeback. And you see the final score, 27-7 there. So
I think one thing that people look at when they look at Stonebridge, and people don't understand, there's this team from Ashburn, and they're always winning, but they don't really understand Stonebridge. And you see that loss to Robinson, you're like, all right, well, they're not as good as they were last year. We're going to write them off. Madison was, it's undefeated. But Stonebridge, you got to understand, at the beginning of this year, last year, Stonebridge lost 3 Division I athletes. They lost Terrence Glenn, the quarterback. They lost Wyloo Brown, the running back. They lost Andrew Nuss, who's at Notre Dame right now, offensive and defensive lineman. They lost some big players, and they were filling those gaps. Sure, they had Jaron Gavea. Jaron Gavea is, well, the best or the second best athlete in the Northern region. I'm talking about Ben Barber as well. They're the same kind of person. So they're always going to be good. And you see this, they are one of the best teams in the region. And it just took a little while for them to get going, but you can see what they do when they get going.
For people that watched the Robinson-Stonebridge game and they thought that maybe the Bulldogs would struggle a little bit, they apparently didn't watch the game at all. Stonebridge had several chances in that game. They just could not convert. First-year starting quarterback, Patrick Thompson, was making the right decisions on where to pass the ball. He just couldn't quite connect on them, but you could see something special. Dave, what do you see from both teams throughout the rest of the way?
Well, talking about that Robinson loss, we might have been surprised about it, but Stonebridge was even more surprised. Talking to Jaron after the game, I believe he said they hadn't lost a regular season contest since something like 2002. So it was really a shock to them, but they're all pretty pleased with the way they've been bouncing back since that game.
Well, Dave, you've been talking about how the two games that Madison's had recently against Woodson, against Stonebridge, will kind of define them. I think now is going to be really what defines Madison's season, because they were really looking forward to the Stonebridge game. You and I were in the parking lot where they were screaming, "Bring on the Bulldogs." Well, they got the Bulldogs. They pretty much got whooped by the Bulldogs. Now what are you going to do the rest of the season to prove that that loss was a little glitch? Several other teams in the region have one loss on their record, and they've gone on long winning streaks, such as Stonebridge said, oh, that was just a one loss. Madison has to do the same thing. Now that we're done talking Liberty District, it's time to get into my district, the real district, the extremely competitive district, the one and only Patriot District. Sitting there at the top is Lake Braddock. The Bruins are 5-0 in district play, 7-1 overall, quite possibly the surprise team of the Northern region. They have a huge game this week at, you guessed it, number 2 West Springfield. The Spartans are 4-1 in district play, 6-2 overall, rebounded this week with a win over TC Williams after falling to South County last week, 2 weeks ago, 35-31. When I interviewed quarterback Bryn Runner after the win against TC Williams, he said it was gut check time for the Spartans that week during practice because they thought they had a better program than a program that loses to South County. There you see, sitting at third is the Stallions. They are 3-2 in district play, 4-4 overall. They had their winning streak snapped this week against West Potomac, who got back in the winning column. West Potomac, there you see there, they're also 3-2 in district play, 6-2 overall. The Wolverines trying to right the ship. Annandale's Adams, a little disappointing season. Back-to-back Patriot District champions who've lost just a slew of players. They're 2-3 in district play, 4-4 overall. Then you have TC Williams. The Titans struggle to score, have a good defense, but just can't seem to put together consistency on offense. They're 2-3 in district play, 3-5 overall, and for all intents and purposes are out of the playoff picture. Hayfield is 0-5 in district play, 1-7 overall. They are out of the playoff picture. And then you have Lee, quite possibly the most intriguing case of the playoffs in the region. They are 1-5 in district play, 1-7 overall. You will see where they sit in the PowerPoint rankings a little bit later on the show. The Lancers have a very good chance of possibly making the playoffs with 2 or even 3 wins, which would just be astonishing. But first, Dave, you've seen Lake Braddock once or twice this year. What do you see from the Bruins, and how do you think they're going to be able to do against that high-powered Spartan offense coming up on Friday night?
Well, I think that's going to be a heck of a game. I believe I said it last week. I saw Lake Braddock first week of the season. They played at Robinson, lost 21-0, and they did not look like a good team to me at all. It looked like Shane Halley was their one and only guy. It looked like a one-man team, but they have won 7 straight games, including the 37-13 win over Annandale. They've just been on fire. And Halley didn't even play last weekend. He was out with an injury, but senior Michael Harrison had 25 carries for 312 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which is just phenomenal. So they're clearly not a one-man team, and they're playing better than anybody in that district right now.
I think that game is just truly going to be the game of the week. Both teams extremely competitive and bring a lot to the table, but I think this is going to be the week that Lake Braddock is exposed. They've beaten a lot of good to average teams. They have not beaten that extremely good team, which I think West Springfield is going to do. The Spartans are going to have to outscore the Bruins in that one, though, as their defense is better this year, but you can run up the middle with them. They are susceptible to giving up the big play, and Bryn Renner and company are going to have to hang possibly 35 up there on the board. Lake Braddock has 3 main players in Keon Roberts, Michael Harrison, who had 300-plus yards last week against Annandale, and they have Mr. Shane Halley, who will be back at quarterback. That game will just be, as I said, the game of the week. Get out there to Spartan Country and watch some darn good Patriot District football. Also, you have South County. Now, South County, the Stallions lost this past week to West Potomac. They're going to need to win at least 1, if not 2, of their last regular season games. Going into the year, they talked about playoffs. We want to make the playoffs. You guys know what kind of coach Pete Bendorf is. Paul, what do you think it would mean for Pete Bendorf to just lead his team to the playoffs after just wanting to get there all season long, and what happened last year with just missing it by losing the last day of the regular season.
You see the pedigree that these great Northern Region coaches bring to newer programs. You see what we just talked about Stonebridge. You see what Mickey Thompson has done at Stonebridge. You see what Tom Verbanek did at Westfield. Those new programs immediately competing after a quick year of getting ready. You see what Coach Bendorf is doing with the South County Stallions. He needs to take that next step. It will mean a lot to him if he does.
Now, West Potomac's also in the middle of the Patriot District. The Wolverines have kind of been sputtering along during the middle part of the season. They had a long 9-game winning streak to start out the year and extending into last year. A lot of observers, such as myself, thought they could be the chalk of the Patriot District. Little wrong. Josh Wells has been banged up, looking to get healthy for the stretch run. They are in firm position to get a playoff berth. If they win one more game, they're going to improve their position. But the Wolverines, a healthy Wolverines team that can run the ball, could be extremely competitive. Now we get to Lee. Lee has a game against T.C. Williams this week, and they have a game against West Springfield to end the season. Dave, they just got off the schneid this week against Hayfield. How did they do that, and how big of a win is that for Lancers, who finally got the goose egg off the board?
Well, we're supposed to be impartial being sports writers, but how can you not feel good for the Lee Lancers for getting their first win of the season? They might be the best 1-7 team we've ever seen in the Northern region.
They're better than some 2-6 and 3-5 teams.
It's unbelievable. The schedule that they had early, playing pretty much the top 5 in our rankings every week.
Out of district is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but they beat Hayfield 34-28 in the rain, in the slop. Pierre Williams had 182 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns for them. You got to feel good about the Lancers finally getting a win on the board, and they really have a good shot of making the playoffs if they win their last 2 games.
I interviewed Pierre Williams after their loss to Lake Braddock 2 weeks ago, and he was just mad at himself. I asked him, what does the team have to do the remainder of the season to make the playoffs? He's like, it's on me. It's on me. We need to win out. That's what we need to do. That's the kind of leadership you want from a senior. And when you go and throw up 180 yards on the board to get your team your first win, that's what you want. You can read all of our analysis of the Liberty District, the Patriot District. You can check it out on the FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. Several different kinds of stories on any different sport you can possibly think of. You can also post comments to our stories if you would like. But upcoming next, we have Monica Moore and a little volleyball action. So please stay tuned, as right now we're going to have a little news from our GMU segment.
It's week 2 in the Patriot Insider. I'm Nick Asher with more on Mason men's basketball here for FSN. With just under 3 weeks before the opener of the regular season, apparently I wasn't so crazy placing such high praise and expectations on the Patriots, as George Mason is number 1 in the CAA preseason poll. Defending champ VCU came in second, with Old Dominion starting off third. Mason head coach Jim Larinaga says this is nothing but tradition for the Patriots in the preseason, but the key is to live up to these high expectations before the season and continue to build throughout the long schedule.
I think we've been picked preseason number 1 or 2 for like 7 years in a row because of the tradition that we have built. We are proud of the success that our program has enjoyed over the years. What you see in the preseason polls, though, have nothing really to do with what's going to happen during the season. What happens during the season is based on performance on the court. And the most important thing for us is to take the lessons that we should have learned from last season's games and be able to improve upon our performance and make it more consistent.
George Mason opens up the regular season November 9th, hosting Vermont at the Patriot Center. With the recent release of the TV schedule, the Patriots look to once again have plenty of exposure despite their week out-of-conference schedule. A record 22 regular season television games will be broadcast, with the bulk of the schedule being carried on the newly formed Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. ESPN2 will carry 2 games, first against Kansas State in the opening round of the Old Spice Classic on Thanksgiving night, and later a rematch of last year's CAA title game with number 2 VCU, January 29th. Comcast Sportsnet will carry most of the big conference games later in the season. The Patriots, who set a school record in attendance last season, will be looking to build a resume for return to the big dance, hoping to make an early splash in the Old Spice Classic November 22nd through the 24th, where the winner of the first round matchup with K-State will advance with a chance to play Villanova. The high hopes of the Patriots will undoubtedly rest on the broad shoulders of Will Thomas, who was voted a preseason CAA first-team member, not surprisingly joined by VCU point guard Eric Maynor, among others. Now, Coach L still has concerns for injured forward Daryl Monroe, whose nagging toe injury has Larinaga looking far into the future before he sees a 100% Daryl Monroe again.
I think the difficult part for Daryl is missing all of the preseason work again. This toe injury has been with him for a very long time. He kind of fought through it last year. This year he felt like he couldn't fight through it and wasn't able to play at 100%. So hopefully by December he'll be back at 100%.
No question the Patriots have everything in place for a big season. Unfortunately, there's still 3 weeks before we get to see any real action. This time before the season's slow, but stay with me and the Patriots Insider, and I keep you up to date with a constant remedy for your Mason basketball fix. I'm Nick Ashew in the Patriots Insider for Fairfax Sports Network.
You can check out Nick Ashew's weekly columns about Fairfax or about George Mason University basketball on FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. He will have podcasts on The Mason Nation, which tips off November 9th against Vermont. That's a Friday night, so be ready for a little mid-major action. But right now, it's time to talk a little volleyball. And Monica Moore's #1 team kind of stumbled out of the blocks this week. But Monica, hit me with some volleyball news.
All right, well, it has been another exciting week in the Northern Region for volleyball. There have been 2 big upsets this week, as John just mentioned. But first, let's take a look at my rankings, how they stood at the beginning of the week before the big upsets happened. At the top of the list is still Centerville. They had a big week last week with wins over both Herndon and Robinson. And followed by them is Langley in the #2 position with their record at 12-1. Their only loss this season thus far coming from that Centerville team. In the 3rd place position is Westfield with their record of 13-4, and they are followed by Chantilly, another Concord District team, at 9-3. And rounding out the list is Jill Ratchetory's Stonebridge team with their record of 15-3. However, as I mentioned, there have been 2 big upsets in the region this week, and the first happened on Monday night when Centerville hosted Concord District rival Fairfax. And during the first 2 games of that match, it really looked like that Centerville was going to run away with it. They absolutely dominated it. However, after the second game, Fairfax coach Christine Zanilato told her team in the huddle that she felt like they were really letting the fact that they were playing Centerville impact their mindset, and they weren't playing like they played all season. And her words of encouragement must have really worked because they won the 3rd game and the 4th game. And although the 5th game was a nail-biter, Fairfax came out on top. They were led by 2 sensational outside hitters, junior Teresa Harvey and freshman Marilyn Pizer. And they were not only being sensational on the hitting front, but also playing on the back row and digging about all of the hits that Centerville could send at them. And they also had 2 sensational setters for them, Nikki Wellington, who had 20 assists, and Jean Diornelius, who had 24 assists. So congratulations to the Fairfax Rebels. It was an absolutely impressive win for them. However, the news is not all bad for Centerville because even with that loss, they still win the Concord District for the regular season. Both Centerville and Westfield have 1 loss on the season, but of course Westfield's loss was at the hands of Centerville. But Centerville will go into the Concord District Tournament as the #1 team. Now, and as I said, there were 2 big losses because last night, Coach Steve Stotler's McLean team defeated Stonebridge in a very impressive win for the McLean team. And it's not getting easier for Stonebridge this week because tomorrow night they have a big matchup against Langley. So stay tuned for news on that one tomorrow night. Now, before I go, this week, as every week, I had the opportunity to catch up with one of the sensational volleyball players in the Northern region. And this week, I got to interview Annandale's Jenna McRae. And many around the region may know her as a basketball standout, and she's actually hoping to play basketball in college next year. However, she's also pretty impressive on the volleyball court. As a sophomore, she was second team in the Patriot District. Last year, she had some ankle injuries from her summer basketball league, and so she struggled a little bit, but this year she has been back at 100% and has been very impressive for the Adams. And so if you're interested in reading the transcript of my interview with Jenna McRae, it is available at our website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. That's all from the Northern Region Volleyball Report this week, but I'll be back next week with highlights from the Stonebridge-Langley matchup, as well as highlights from district tournament play. Thanks, John.
More great stuff from Monica with districts and regional tournaments coming up. Monica's going to be all over that. So as she mentioned, you can check out all of her knowledge that she brings on the volleyball front at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. When we come back, Dave Buschenfeld and Paul Frummelt are going to be back on the set with me. We're going to talk a little PowerPoints, and we're going to talk a little Northern Region football. So come on back, everybody. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports, everybody. I am your host, John Marcario. One BJ Cooperoulis is on assignment tonight. Will be back next week, so don't worry. To my left, the one and only Paul, and to the left of him, the one and only Dave. But right now, we're going to talk PowerPoints. PowerPoints, for those of you just tuning in or had a little brain fart, are what determines the seedings and who gets in to the Northern Region playoffs. We're going to talk a little Division 5 PowerPoint standings first. Dave, what do we have going in Division 5?
Well, we've been talking about them a lot. Stonebridge sitting up there at number 1. They have 30 PowerPoints at the present time. Madison, even though they lost last week to Stonebridge, sitting in second place with 28.9 PowerPoints. Third is Edison, John's favorite team, 27.3 PowerPoints. Marshall sitting in fourth place at 22.8. And then you hit a little bit of mediocrity, in my opinion. Fifth is Yorktown, sixth Mount Vernon, seventh Washington and Lee. All those teams are 4-4 currently. And then number 8, sitting South Lakes, they have 19.8 PowerPoints. They are 2-6. And on the outside looking in, we talked about they have a shot. Lee is in ninth place right now with 18.9 PowerPoints.
So close for the Lancers right now. Like I said, they play TC Williams and West Springfield to close out. They have to win at least one, might have to win 2 of them to get in, but if they finish 2-8, very interesting to see if they will get in. Paul, hit me with the Division 6 PowerPoints.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Right at top, Westfield, undefeated, best team in the region. They're at 30.5 PowerPoints. Got Chantilly right under them. Their only loss was to Westfield, 29.8 PowerPoints. Lake Braddock currently sitting on top of the Patriot District. They have 28.8 PowerPoints. If West Springfield, West Potomac, both Patriot District people trying to catch Lake Braddock, 28.6 for West Springfield, 27.4 for West Potomac. Then you have Robinson, 26.3. Oakton, 26.0. Oakton did beat Robinson. Robinson's still on top with their quality of win. Woodson there, 25 PowerPoints. South County, 24.5. And Centerville there with 24.4.
If you look at the Division 6 PowerPoint standings, you will see Oakton, the team that started out 0-2, is surging up to 7th. Cougar Nation making a name for himself after the slow start. We're going to talk about them right now in our Concord District standings and wrap-up of games. There you see the mother of all districts. Westfield sits atop, 4-0 in district play, 8-0 overall. Chantilly's Chargers, 4-1 in district play, 7-1 overall. Their lone loss to the Bulldogs. Then you see third, Oakton, 3-1 in district play, 5-3 overall. They host Westfield this week in a game that has traditionally been a tough contest for the Bulldogs, as they have lost to Oakton once in the past 3 years. Then there's Centerville. The Wildcats are 2-2 in district play, 5-3 overall, coming off a win against Mount Vernon, a shutout win, 24-0. Then you have Robinson, a disappointing 1-3 in district play, 4-4 overall. The Rams struggle to score at times. We'll talk about their game against Oakton, in which they just flat out got beat. Then you have Hernan. They are 1-3 in 3-5 overall. Then good old Paul's alma mater, Fairfax, 0-5 in district play, 1-7 overall. But they are scoring more touchdowns in Concord district play.
Hey, they're moving up there.
Than last year.
Baby steps.
Now,
I
Paul,
like it.
you and I were at the Oakton-Robinson game. What did you see from the Cougars that you didn't see from them earlier in the season, and vice versa? What did you see from Robinson that just is lacking in their offensive game plan?
Well, what I expected to see was a quality tight game, and that's not what we got. We got an Oakton domination, and something about Oakton that I saw Oakton play against Madison the first game of the year. Then I saw them play against Langley and midway through. Then I saw them play. The amount that this Cougar team has improved has been amazing. It's been outstanding, actually, the fact that they went from an 0-2 team to one of the best teams in the Northern Region. Again, I'll say it again, one of the best teams in the Northern Region. They are a great team. What's happened? They're young. They're dual quarterbacks. Chris Coyer and Harris have improved. They can both throw the ball. They can both run. They've done a great job. Trey Watts has been the lifeblood of that offense, the running back. He can get those positive yardage when he needs to through the tackles, or he can swing it outside. He has the speed and the strength. Their defense has just been incredible. Their defense is it's stopping the run. I mean, here's what you got to do when you got to have a defense. You got to stop the run. You got to stop the pass. They're doing both. They're playing great defense, and you can expect this from Coach Joe Thompson. He's a great coach. He has a great coaching staff. I figured they'd bounce back from the 0-2 start, but I didn't figure they would be this good.
Well, we have some highlights from the game in which Oakton won 42-14 on Robinson's homecoming. There you see Timmy Meyer, one of his few passing completions that he had early there in the first quarter. Here's an interception that's going to be returned for a touchdown. This was a game changer right there. Oakton took the lead and never looked back.
Well, that was quick in the game. That was in that first quarter, and it set the tone. As mentioned, that Oakton defense, they can guard against the pass. Here you see Trey Watts bursting through, getting stopped, actually. That didn't happen often during this game. See Oakton right there on goal line, bursting through in there. Well, not again. He will burst through, I promise you, folks. He was great all game, and here you see Robinson trying to get things going on offense. They just couldn't.
Peter Farrar, he must have thought there was 6 or 7 Oakton Cougars in front of him at all times as he just was hit everywhere. Timmy Meyer, another pass completion, interception. They called pass interference on that one as he pushed in the back. A few positive plays for Robinson. You're going to see a little reverse. Quentin Fox takes it to the house.
48 yards.
48 yards. Robinson's best offensive play from scrimmage. It kind of got them back in the game at that point, but Oakton just put it away with Chris Coyer early in the first half, mind you. Scampers there for 20 yards. Paul, he was just all over the place in this game.
Both him and Harris were all over the place. They're very good running quarterbacks. Here you see this Oakton defense, the swarming Oakton defense. They couldn't get past the line of scrimmage. Timmy Meyer couldn't go anywhere. They had those Rams in check.
Yeah, Timmy Meyer right here, you're going to see just struggling to get completions. Another interception. This one was returned deep in Ram territory. A penalty took it back to midfield. Oakton would end up and going to score. Timmy Meyer just seemed a little bit gun-shy after the interception he had in the first quarter. Just didn't seem like the same Robinson team that beat Stonebridge. Here you're going to see a little trick play finishing off the drive. This was with 16 seconds to go in the first half to put Oakton up by 4 scores. Early in the third quarter, they just put the game away with a little pitch right there.
That's right out of Chantilly's play right there, an option play. And you see points from turnovers were huge for Oakton.
Yeah, here you can see it. Here's a punt. In the punt, some nice coverage in here, but they're going to get a big return out of this to set up just another great field position for the Cougars, who just seemed like they're in Robinson territory all game long. Peter Farrar stopping him a little bit there to slow him down. That Ram defense was on the field so much in the second half, Paul.
Short fields. Robinson had long fields. Oakton had short fields. You can see another Trey Watts touchdown. You can see that makes a difference, folks.
And here you're going to see Oakton again. They rotated in 3 different quarterbacks. It didn't seem to matter who was there. One thing about Robinson's defense, though, they were down big going into the fourth quarter. They didn't give up. Their offense scored a fourth quarter touchdown, but here you're going to see Oakton wide open receivers in the third quarter. Robinson just had so much trouble guarding the players. You're going to see a Timmy Meyer completion. Seemed to be a little bit more confident.
He settled down. He had those early interceptions, then he settled down. Does what Timmy Meyer does, trying to get his team back in the game with his arm.
Right, there you see Peter Farrar. He had a nice game again for Robinson. But here you can see the best offensive pass from Timmy Meyer. 38-yard touchdown. Receiver slips behind both defenders, makes a nice little diving catch for the touchdown. Robinson didn't give up in this game, so credit Mark Bendorf and the coaching staff for that one. But guys, Robinson they struggled so much, and from a team that had so much promise at the beginning of the season, it was just surprising. But at the top of the Concord is Westfield. They have a game against Oakton this week. Dave, what do you think is going to happen in that one?
Oakton's playing better, and it's well documented that I have no idea what's going on when it comes to picking Oakton's football games. I actually saw Phil Levine, the DSA at Oakton, at the Concord District field hockey the other night, and he thanked me for giving their team so much bulletin board material picking against them all year. But even though I think they've gotten a lot better since the first week of the season when I saw them against Madison, I mean, how many different ways can you say amazing about Westfield? They're just hands down the best team in the region, and I think they'll win it. It might be closer than people think, but I still like Westfield to win this game.
I'm definitely not going to make any predictions because we know how those Oakton Cougars feel about the media and not giving them a shot. I am not going to make a prediction, but I will say this. When Westfield loses in the regular season, and it's not often, when Westfield loses in the regular season, it's usually to Oakton. I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I'm just putting those facts out there. I will not pick against Westfield, and I'm not going to pick against Oakton. I'm glad we're not picking this game.
It's going to be a tie.
Okay, well, unlike both of you, I'm going to call Oakton's winning this football game because it means more to the Cougars. They need to make the playoffs. They need to make more statements. They need to win this football game. Westfield has already knocked up the #1 seed. They're already going to more than likely go to the Northern Region title game. They know this. They think this. Oakton still has a lot to prove after that 0-2 start. Last time I said Westfield would lose, it was to South County, so I might not know what I'm talking about. But Oakton does have a history of playing the Bulldogs tough. Now, our last team in the Concord, we talk about Centerville, Paul. They've been struggling a little bit on offense. Awesome defense. What do they have to do the last 2 games of the regular season to even get back into the playoff discussion?
Well, you mentioned in the Patriots District one of the best games of the week. I personally prefer this game. It's the Sully Bowl. I cover this area, so I'm excited about this game. Centerville, Chantilly. Chantilly, obviously one of the best teams in the region, but Chantilly hasn't beaten Centerville in 11 years. They usually play the last game of the year, and last year, Centerville, it was former head coach Mike Skinner's last game. Chantilly had the playoffs locked up, and they lost to Centerville. This year, there's a little more riding on this game, trying to jockey for position in the playoffs with the new 8-team format. So it's a huge game for both teams. I talked to Chantilly head coach Mike Lally about the last 2 games of the year, trying to keep focused because they have been doing so well, recently just blowing out Fairfax. And he said, I don't have to tell them anything. We got Centerville. We haven't beaten Centerville. There's a trophy that's collecting dust at Centerville, and we want that trophy. And then he said, and we have Edison at the end of the year, the Division V Northern Region champs last year. Edison with one of the best players in the Northern Region. So there's no lack of focus on that Chantilly team. Centerville as well. They have one of the best defenses in the Northern Region. I say that a lot, but Centerville really does. It's their offenses that's really hurting them. But we'll see what Centerville can do if they can get their offense going.
Well, we will have all your Concord District action next week here on the show. But right now is one of our new segments, FairfaxSportsNetwork.com, our new website. We take comments on any given story. Now, right now, we're going to read you our comment of the week. Dave, take it away.
This comment comes from Ian Gaskins, fan of the Mount Vernon football team. Ian says, watch out for the hot team on the rise in the district, Mount Vernon High School, with a shutdown D with a total of 11 interceptions, 14 sacks. Also with the Big O on the rise with QB Brian Green. He has a total of 15 touchdowns, 5 passing and 10 rushing. And also fullback senior Calabina Baca with 559 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. And the rest of the backfield that has over 350 yards combined. There's also tight end Kai Blanco with 3 touchdowns and 200 yards receiving. Ian thinks that Mount Vernon is hot right now and that they're going to surprise some people big in the playoffs. They're going to make a run, no doubt about it. Watch out for them. We're coming. Go Majors.
Mount Vernon currently sits 7th in the PowerPoint standings, so they are in the playoffs right now. The Majors having one of the more successful seasons out of the National District. Speaking of the National District, we're going to jump on into their standings right now, like we do every week. There you see it at the top. Edison, 5-0 in district play, 7-1 overall. Mount Vernon second, 3-1 in district play, 4-1 overall. Then you have Yorktown, 3-1 in district play, 4-3 overall. Washington and Lee trying to make the playoffs for the first time since 1975, guys. They are 3-1 in district play, 4-4 overall. Then you see Wakefield, Stewart, and Falls Church at the bottom of the standings. Those 3 teams out of playoff discussion. The top 4 teams in the playoff discussion. National District could be representing well here in the district play. Now we're going to have our Athlete of the Week. Our Athlete of the Week is a weekly segment that we have from the best athlete from the games that were recently played last week. Paul, take it away.
Hey, we got Gabe Thomas as our Athlete of the Week this week. Now, Gabe is a sophomore at Woodson. We've mentioned him already today. He's the quarterback. In a win against Marshall on Friday night, Thomas was 6 for 10 for 113 yards and threw for a career-high 4 touchdown passes. Now, he also has some legs. He also ran for 49 yards on 14 carries. Gabe Thomas is our FSN Athlete of the Week.
Well, we jump from Athlete of the Week to the Alumni Spotlight Athlete of the Week. Mari Skelton, she will be starting to do our Alumni Spotlight Athlete of the Week. It's going to be a periodic feature that she does on a player that's left the Northern Region and either is exploring their options via playing sports route or a different route. Several players leave the area and don't decide to go with the sports route. They go other ones. We're starting it off with Madison former quarterback Kevin Healy. He's currently a freshman at George Mason University. He plays on their club football team. Last year for Madison, he had 1,348 yards passing and 13 touchdowns, slightly behind Mr. Glennon out of Westfield, so not bad numbers. This year, while splitting time at quarterback for Mason, he is 21 of 59 for 200-plus yards. He has 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown. You can read Mari's full article on www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. She's also open to ideas, so if you have someone that you think you would like to spotlight, shoot her an email. There you see the email. It's marie.skelton, SKELTON, @gmail.com, or you can just go to our website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Look out for reports from her. Now, guys, it's time for our top 10. We do it every week. 1, 2 have basically been the same, but we're just going to read it anyway. Dave, who sits at the top?
No change at the top of the rankings. Westfield still unanimous number 1 pick. Chantilly actually lost a first place or second place vote, it looks like. They only have 34 points in this week's ranking, but they're still sitting at number 2. And we've been talking a lot about Stonebridge. The Bulldogs are alone they were tied for third last week. They're all alone in third place right now with 31 votes.
I can tell you why Chantilly lost a vote. It's because I have Edison as second. Edison currently sits fourth right now. I think they will beat Chantilly. I think they are the best team in Division 5, and I've been saying that for a while. I've got people scratching their heads right now, but that's what I think. Edison sits 4. Lake Braddock sits 5. Madison, the Warhawks, sit 6. With the games coming up this week, that could ebb and flow. And then you have West Springfield at 7, but they could flip-flop with Braddock depending on the outcome of the game this week.
Please be sure to leave your comments for John Mark Carey about his picks on FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. You have Oakton right there at number 8. I believe Oakton should be a little higher, but Oakton's at 8 right now. They deserve it. West Potomac's right there at number 9, and South County at number 10. That's a pretty good 8, 9, and 10 teams right there.
Very good. But if you have any idea about my picks, we can just look at them right now and see how good I have been doing all season long. Let me just tell you, I've been on fire and on point. Nobody can top me. Nobody's going to stop me. Wait, I think I'm Dave. Sorry about that. Dave with another week at the top. He went 1-2 this past week. I went 1-2. Paul stepping it up with 2 and 3, 66%.
No longer tied for last place.
No longer tied with last place.
You got to say, BJ, he's not here, but you got to give him love. He went 3-0. He joins the 3-0 club that me and Dave are in. So, John, what do you have to say for yourself?
I'm missing out on the 3-0 club, but sooner or later I got to hit. I have 2 more weeks to make it. We've got our picks this week. Several of us, 2 of us actually, Dave and I think West Springfield are going to win. Paul and BJ, though, think Lake Braddock is going to win. Paul, why Lake Braddock?
For this week's picks, yeah, I'm taking Lake Braddock because they have proven themselves to be the best team. They've won 7 straight. They had the opening week loss, but they have not lost. West Springfield, on the other hand, they are so up and down. They are so dangerous, and then they can be so puzzling. So I'm going to take Lake Braddock. That's the sure team to hitch your wagon to. I was trying to find some kind of cliche, and I couldn't come up with it.
Came out there, all 3 of us. Woodson across the board. The Cavaliers playing Langley. The Saxons started out the season pretty well, starting to fade down the stretch. Cavaliers have this one. They have a huge game, if they can win this one, against Stonebridge to end the season. It's not going to decide any Liberty District title, but it's going to be a big game for PowerPoint seedings, as Stonebridge could fall a little bit when Edison beats Chantilly. So watch out for that one. Then we have the Yorktown and Mount Vernon one. Dave, again, you like to go against the grain a little bit. I'm the only one that picked Mount Vernon. I don't need to defend that, but Dave, defend why you picked Yorktown.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about the National District, but I know Yorktown is above them in the standings, so I went with them.
Again, don't know much about the National District, but I do know this. I go with teams that are constantly good, and Yorktown is constantly good.
Here's what I go with. I go with what our FSN viewers think and what they post to our website. They said the majors were good. You know what? I'm going with the majors this week.
Got to respect that.
You got to respect that. You can read all of our picks from week 1 till week now. www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. But now it's time for everybody's favorite segment of the show that lives in Loudoun County.
Yes.
Paul loves doing it, so we're just going to get right to it. The Loudoun Report with Mr. Frummel.
All right, guys, this week we had a bunch of field hockey districts, but the Dulles District does not have any field hockey, so we're jumping in with some cross-country. And the Potomac Falls boys cross-country team won their 7th straight Dulles District title. That's a huge feat in any sport. And the girls team also won as well, so they had a sweep. And Josh Harden and Christina Lee both won the individual titles, so Potomac Falls cross-country is definitely the cream of the crop in the Dulles District. And also the Broad Run Cheer team. We're going to jump into a little cheerleading here. The Broad Run Cheer team won the Dulles District cheer competition, so also got to give some love to them. And in football, going to jump into football real quick. Finally, the top 3 standings change a little bit. We got Broad Run number 1. They beat Loudoun County 27-9. We have Parkview at number 2. Now they beat Briar Woods 17-7. They beat Briar Woods, so Briar Woods now has 2 losses to Broad Run and Parkview. I said, you know what? I'm liking what Heritage is doing. I want to move Heritage into the number 3 spot. They beat Dominion 42-28. So right now, Broad Run, Parkview, Heritage, Broad Run, and Parkview play last week of the year. That's a huge one. Even if you live in the northern region, you should go watch that game because it's going to be huge.
Now, if the Loudon Report is our favorite segment on the show, this next segment is a close second. I'm talking about Marcario's Madness. Take it away, John.
West Springfield's football team was putting a thorough beatdown on TC Williams in the third quarter. Then the wind started coming up, the stadium lights started flickering, and rain like I have never seen before started pouring from the sky. The West Springfield cheering section roared their approval. When the referees decided to halt the game for about 30 minutes, the West Springfield fans, who were the largest student contingents I have seen at any football game this year, roared their approval for their fellow students who were leaving the field. As the Spartan players left the field to go to their locker room, they were jumping for joy, making hand signals to their fans. You could tell they were thoroughly enthused by what was happening with the crowd noise. That moment right there is what high school football is all about. Fellow students cheering on fellow students. Unfortunately, several fans at other schools do not get this concept. West Springfield fans, for some reason, are the most loyal in the region. Their football teams don't have a chock full of championship banners. Their basketball teams don't routinely make the state tournament. But through it all, Spartan fans are consistently one of, if not the most loudest and the most loyal in the region. If only other fans in the region could be as loyal as Spartan Nation, football games would be a more festive atmosphere. You could hear the crowds all throughout the county on a Friday night. Instead, there are some games where, unfortunately, there are more players on the field than there are fans in the stands.
John, I have to agree with you. We've been giving Oakton a lot of love today, but I can't give love to the amount of fans that came to that huge game against Robinson. This is a huge game, and there was nobody in the stands. It did look like there was more football players on the field than people in the stands. I know it was on a Saturday, but I know it was raining all Friday night. I don't care. Go out and support your team. You mentioned West Springfield. I have a lot of love for the Charger Nation, the Purple Platoon. They always come out. Westfield's been huge with their blackouts. Fans matter. They do. I always say that home field advantage doesn't matter in high school and big rivalry games. That's true because you have someone like Chantilly coming to Westfield and bringing just the same amount of people. That's when it doesn't matter. But when you have a team like I saw Westfield play Herndon, not a big rivalry game, it's a district game, and there was nobody there from Herndon. Again, it was raining, but still, go out and support your football teams no matter their record.
I fully agree with you. Oakton fans, for lack of a better word, should be embarrassed for how many people were at that football game. We know it's a Saturday night. I know or Saturday afternoon at noon. Noon's a tough time. There's several things going on a Saturday with bringing kids to other sporting events or even watching or going to football games from your favorite college team, but that's your own kid or that's your fellow student out there. You need to go and support them. It's just something that needs to happen. But if you want to read our opinions on everything, including Dave's, including Paul's, including mine, you can check it all out on the website. Here we go with the website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. We have bios up there. We have archive stories. We're going to have stories posted this week about upcoming games. We're going to have Patriot games, Concord games, Liberty games, volleyball, soccer. It's like a bonanza. It's a smorgasbord of information, so check it out on the website. We need to thank our underwriters for this show, but before we do, we're going to plug the FSN Game of the Week, the Sully Bowl, Centerville at Chantilly. In my opinion, Centerville is not going to win that game, and Chantilly is going to snap the streak. But this week, on demand, we also have West Springfield at South County. Exciting game won by the Stallions. Sorry for the spoiler, 35-31. They won it with under 3 minutes to go. Back and forth contest both ways. Check out that one, and also look out for our Game of the Week. Let's thank our underwriters, CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs. Give them a call at 703-978-0257. Now, every week, guys, we do this. Dave, what is the game you are most looking forward to, and why do you think that team may or may not win?
I'll have to stay right with the game we were talking about, the Sully Bowl. It's a huge game for both, well, especially for Centerville and Chantilly if you think they're going to lose their last game against Edison, like somebody over here does. But it's a rivalry game. We've talked about it. Chantilly hasn't won in a while. It's a really big game emotionally for them. I think they're going to come out pumped up and finally get the win after 11 years.
Chantilly breaks the streak.
It's just a big streak. I'm going to go with the Lake Braddock West Springfield game. I'm a slight homer for the Patriot District. That's who I cover. But I think Bryn Renner and company are just going to exploit Lake Braddock. They're going to come out and win that game. We're going to go one more time around. Dave, your Division 5 and Division 6 champions, and just give me a 1 to 2 sentence argument of why you think they're going to be it.
Division 6, Westfield, I can't say any more about them. They're the best team. Division 5, I have had my eyes open for Stonebridge. They looked phenomenal last weekend, and I think they're the best team in Division 5. They should win that one.
It's a no-brainer. It's Stonebridge and Westfield, so go ahead and disagree.
I guess I have no brain at all. I'm going to agree with them, though, and say the Bulldogs in Division 6 because Westfield, I'm going to talk like somebody else usually sits on the show. They can beat the Washington Redskins, an NFL team. They're just great. But in Division 5, I don't know why you keep disrespecting Edison. It could be because they play in the National District. You think Stonebridge could beat them.
No, they beat Stonebridge last year, and they were the best. They won. I believe Stonebridge has their eye out for them, and I don't think it's going to be close.
Well, Edison's got their eye out for them, so look out. But you can agree with us, disagree with us, come read our stuff. Visit it on the web at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. I am John Marcario, subbing in for BJ Cooper Rules. He will be back next week. To the left of me, the one and only Paul Frummel. To the left of him, the one and only Dave Bushenfeld. I think he's got somewhere to be soon.
Go Rockies.
Look forward to seeing everybody next week. Keep it locked here for repeats. And come back next week here on the Fairfax Sports Report.